Yeah. What's up, Pags? We're back. We're going to do an episode. We're going to try this again.
All right. Second time's a charm.
Yeah, new computer, and we still had a little bit of an issue. But now I know.
Nice.
If I don't hear you for a minute, reboot the interface. Why? I don't know. Is what it is, I guess.
It was the lighting.
Anyways. Yeah, it was the lighting. Me turning on the light fucked with my... Yeah, sure did. Life is grand. Life is great. You took a nap. Fuck off. You know. You know how long it's been since I've taken a nap?
Yeah, same here, dude. That was a...
okay.
You know,
okay, then you get a pass. If this was the first nap you have had in quite some time, then I will get off my fuck you horse. And,
no, it's all good, man. Like, I usually... I come home from work and I do the cooking and stuff in the house. So, like, I come home from work and I go right to making everybody dinner and stuff. So I never get to, like, just come home, kick off the shoes and relax. So, yeah, this was a special day.
That is a special day. Did it feel good to wake up after a 45-minute nap, or did it just screw your world up? Because sometimes, yeah. Because sometimes I'll wake up from a nap and I feel worse, which has been a long time since I took a nap. But the last time I did, I woke up and I felt worse. I felt like shit, and I was groggy for the rest of the day, evening, whole 9 yards. So,
yeah, I had a rough night, man. I was up till like 3 a.m. trying to get my video out for today, and I had to get up at 7. Yeah.
I can't believe you stayed up that late. You're committed.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were that committed. Like, it's obvious that your videos are good, but I thought you just simply had the time, I guess.
No, God, no.
So you're burning.
I'm
at
actually
both ends.
debating. Yeah, I'm debating going to like more of a Bronson-esque schedule of like every couple weeks, every few weeks, or whatever it is. Because
you gotta do what you gotta do.
A week for me is oof.
Yeah. Well, see, and I pump them out because I don't. I just pump them out. I pump them out to pump them out. I'm like, hear the mic, you like it, you don't. I'm not going to, I don't have time to do the fancy stuff, which Bronson's fancy.
Yeah, but you also bank yours, don't you? Like, you do like a bunch of them at once, and then like you kind of have them ready to go, right?
Yeah, whenever I come up here and I've got the time, I'll knock out 2 to 5. Something like that, which means I'm wearing the same shirt in all of them. But yours, we'll get started on our music thing in a minute, but yours, like, just because we don't get to talk face to face all that often where we're busy. But we talked about this whole Sweetwater gig popping up.
Yeah.
The more I watch your videos, the more you're just, like, it's the perfect one-for-one. Like, if Mitch Gallagher's out.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, that, the style that he does, the style of those videos is very similar to the style of what you do. And the background and the piano and the guitar cabs, the shots that you've already implemented in the MEI Studios page would just flip right in, would fall like a domino into that stratosphere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got a couple of friends that work there, and they both said the same thing. They're like, yeah, dude, you should definitely send something in for that.
Oh,
I'm just hoping that, like, if it is a thing, I don't think I could uproot the family to move out there. If it was like a remote thing where they just send you crap and you do your thing and you send it back in, that would be money.
Yeah, depending on the pay. I don't know what places like that are going to pay a content creator, but if it takes up a lot of time, obviously it would have to be very beneficial to leave your job over. So. I don't know. I'm curious. I would just like to, like, I applied as well, and I have 0 chance, but I just want to know details. Like, I would like a phone call so I could just hear details, and then they could tell me, like, yeah, I mean, we appreciate you applying, but not at this time. I just want the details. Like, I have there's no false hope here. I just want to know more about this whole content creators being hired places. I want to know more about that.
Yeah, like how many videos are you expected to pump out a week? What are they paying per video? Do you get to keep the gear? Do you have to give it back? Like, there's a lot
if you want to send me that
questions.
Neumann MT58, go ahead. I'll
do
a video on it. Sounds good.
I'm gonna give a few things to do with that, but yeah,
right. Absolutely, but we're gonna second attempt here because my last computer crapped the hell out. But you want to talk about the band Drain tonight?
Sure. The old Butthole Surfers guys band from like the early 90s?
No. I'm not familiar with that.
Drain. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that was like that European band, the Chicks, that sounded like Alice in Chains, right?
That's STH.
Ah.
And that was good shit, actually. No, they're not hardcore enough for the episode we're getting ready to do.
Okay. So I got one more left. It's got to be the band from Santa Cruz, California, then. Is that the one that we're talking about?
No, it's actually Mr. Plummer / Drain. It's a split EP. No, it is. It's the hardcore outfit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool, though, if Drain did a split EP with Mr. Plummer? Or whatever the fuck that shit's called, Liquid Plumber?
Oh, man.
Anyways, I don't know. I'm grasping at straws with that one.
No, man. But, yeah, that's, So I got a little bit of history on this band, if you want. I did find it kind of amusing that this is now the third band that, we've come across that's named Drain, but somehow that's allowed to happen. I mean, I think if I called my band Metallica, I'd probably get in a little trouble. But,
yeah,
here we are.
I mean, STH is come and gone, and the first Drain is also come and gone, right?
Right.
Isn't that kind of a thing? Like if
so is Metallica, but
nailed that one. You know what? I've got to say, since we did the review on that album, I have not listened to the whole album over, but
neither have I.
But whenever I'll just pick a random song to listen to, like here lately, I love listening to full albums, but here lately I just want to do like luck of the draw. So I'll just play one song of something that I'm really into right now, which I'm really into. Have you listened to the Avenged Sevenfold song, We Love You, which is the newest single from their upcoming album?
I'm trying not to. I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm trying to avoid the Foo Fighters stuff, too, just so that
You want to do both of those with me as well, right?
Like, I want to go in clean with that, and I don't want to have any preconceived bias going into it.
Well, I fucked up, and I have preconceived bias on the Avenged Sevenfold, and I am more excited about that album than I've been about any. And that's the Foo Fighters album's coming out too, and oh shit, I don't have my Foo Fighters shirt on, but I'm a huge fan, and I'm super excited. And I saw a review that was a 9 out of 10 for that new Foo Fighters album. Wow. Avenged Sevenfold 4 out of 5. Actually, that review said it was one of the Foo Fighters' best albums. I was like, holy fuck. Because Wasting Light is beastly, and Silence Echoes, Patience and Grace is beastly, and I think Medicine at Midnight's great. But anyways, these two songs from Avenged Sevenfold, I am pumped. Like, I love both of them to no end. Like, I have listened to them countless times, and I'm not that big of an Avenged Sevenfold fan. Like, my favorite album's probably still Waking the Fallen, honestly. Like, that's the era that I really like. But I like a lot of it. Nightmare is my second favorite album by them. Mm-hmm. And this album, like, it's going to be weird, but it's fucking brilliant so far, in my opinion. 2 songs in.
Yeah, I as I said, I want to keep my palate clean and just go in completely raw with this. Same thing with the Foo Fighters. I wound up hearing one of the Foo Fighters songs on the radio the other day, and I was just like, damn it.
I listened to one. I listened to the first one, and then me and my wife attempted to watch the thing on Veeps where they revealed the drummer.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't watch it. It was just, I love Josh Freese. Love the guy. I'm a big Perfect Circle fan. I love the Vandals. Yeah. I love everything he's ever done. Like, he's great, but
he's been on like millions of albums. I mean, it's
he's a badass.
How much stuff that guy was doing.
Yeah, absolute badass. But his drums were at the front of the mix, and it was fucking weird. Like, I know why they did it. I understand all of it, but it was weird, and it got me in my feels, and I couldn't do it. And like, I'm gonna have to listen to the album first. I got to hear the album with Dave drumming before I can then start listening to because Josh Freese is going to do it different, as he should.
Oh, of course.
And when I listened to the one song I made it through on that Veep stream, a lot of people were saying there was so many missed hits, and there was, but it was intentional. He's not going to play exactly like Taylor. That's not how it's supposed to work. But my God, there's a lot of fucking cymbal in that shit. There was so much cymbal. I was like, this is tough. I can't do this yet. I got that. That's got to be recessed in the mix before I can do this. But Drain. Did you happen to listen to California Cursed by any chance? The album before this one?
No, in fact, after we tried to do our thing the other day, I was like, should I listen to this? And I still wanted to keep my current thoughts on this because I think we had a good thing going on this. and I will listen to it as long as we get through this one today. So yeah,
much like marital relations.
Yeah,
much like marital relations, you're all about the build-up, apparently.
Yeah, so that's on my list. I actually I have it downloaded. It's just I didn't want to hit play until we did this because I didn't want to have a change of heart on my opinion on this one, because I went into this album completely blind. You had already been a fan of them apparently and knew their stuff. I didn't, so
I was surprised because you suggested this. Like, what made you suggest it if you hadn't listened to them?
Well, I saw it had come up, and I wound up finding a couple of the singles that were released, and I heard it. I was like, all right, this could be a good fit. Let's check this out. And then I started digging into it, and I saw that they had an album that had come out just before, or was it before or during the pandemic or something like that?
Right before.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, well, let me check this new album out. Let's see if you want to go in and try and do it and go from there. So I want, again, I'm trying to keep myself pure so I don't have any kind of hate like the Metallica album. So
yeah. Oh, my thoughts on that. I wanted to do a random thing, so I play one metal song, and then I get all my shit that I love just in mixes. Like, I think I played an Avenged Sevenfold song, Let the Rest In. And I got some Machine Head, and I like Machine Head a lot. And then I got some this and some that and some hardcore. And then a couple Metallica songs snuck in there from the new album. And maybe the hate subdued. Like, I still didn't think it was anything great, but I was like, I was still banging my head a little bit.
Maybe it's one of those things you can't, you can't take the whole loaf of bread at once. You could take a couple of slices and make a sandwich out of it, but
I think that's it.
Eat that.
Yeah, I just a couple pieces of toast and I was okay with it. So
Yep.
Yeah, but Drain,
there are albums like that. Yeah.
yeah. It's like the more I think about it, like it's not that I hated it. It just didn't. It did not meet expectations.
Right.
And there were parts that I hated. Whatever. But Drain, Living Proof. You already know how I feel about at least the first handful of songs. But track 1, Run Your Luck. You take it away because my feedback and notes are shorter than your feedback and notes. So
yeah,
track 1. Oh,
like
did you do the history?
No, I didn't. But that's you can the
history is what
or whatever. But
history is what you do best. How about it? This might be a short one, anyways, because it's a short album, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll get into it. So Drain is made up of Sammy Chiara Mataro on bass and vocals, Cody Chavez on guitar, and Tim Flagle on drums. Sammy grew up in San Pedro, California, which is home of Black Flag and the Minutemen, and he later moved to Santa Cruz, where he embraced the local flavor and helped start a music scene that was very much Santa Cruz. They released their first album, California Curse, which would turn out to be kind of prophetic as it was released just at the beginning of the pandemic. Sammy said it was both a blessing and a curse, though, but he said it was a curse because they couldn't tour, but, at the same time, it built up a lot of anticipation from fans to go out and see them once lockdowns were lifted. And they did come out. Their first gig after lockdown, they saw thousands of fans come out to a festival concert, which grabbed the attention of Epiphany Records, who signed them soon after. The band insisted on touring on their first album before trying to come out with something new, and they were put on the road with the band Terror to support California Cursed. After the band entered the studio and started working on the this album that we got here we are, and we now have an album, their second album now, from Drain from Santa Cruz, not Drain from Europe or Drain from Butthole Surfers guy, but a new Drain. So here we are, and
I do wish we had Europe Drain. I do wish we had some more of them because digging it.
Yeah, me too.
Epitaph, right? I think you said yes. Epiphany was the label, but Epitaph.
Was it? I'm sorry, did I say that? I thought it's Epitaph Records.
Epitaph, yeah.
Yep.
Which is always a. I'm a big Bad Religion fan too. So anything on Epitaph, there's I'm usually everything Epitaph does, I'm in. So, and I do like this band.
So yeah. I honestly, as you said before, man, we're gonna have a little bit of a difference of opinion on this one, and I'll start off the first track here, "Run Your Luck." To me, I think it's a great starting song for the album. The riffs and everything that they had going on, it was a very old school, very hardcore punk crossover kind of thing. Like, I got a lot of DRI vibes from this. I don't know if you're a fan of that band at all, but like,
yep.
When I was into like the thrash thing, like that, my neighbor was like a big punk guy. In fact, he's actually in some of the DRI videos from like CBGBs and places that they played in Manhattan during like late 80s, that time period. So he turned me on to DRI, and that's when I was getting to like the whole thrash thing. So this first song kind of threw me back to that. And to me, I was like, all right, cool. We got, typical kind of hardcore stuff going on, and we got a little bit of that thrash thing happening. And I could definitely hear a lot of different bands' influences. I mean, that's my take on the first song. I dug it. I thought it was, I thought it was pretty badass.
You'll be happy to know that I've jammed this album a few more times since we had a failed recording. I still think the song starts out great, but it kind of went. And you're into hardcore. I'm into hardcore, but like I like the direction of like Tursnstile, where they're taking hardcore and they're kind of blending it in to some different sounds, and Drain really brought the hardcore sound on California Cursed as well, but there was something just slightly more melodic and slightly more structured about the songs they did on that one. And this one is, which I do respect, they kind of dialed back the clock a little bit, at least on this first track, and it is kind of a basic hardcore song done well. But I'm so used to them pushing the envelope that them reverting to more of like a classic hardcore sound, I think, caught me off guard. But I'm spoiled by California Curse. So the riff starts out great, and then I felt like it went off the rails. And it's definitely something I could listen to because I like hardcore, but it paled. The first track paled in comparison to the first track off the last album for me.
Okay. Well, that's again, we talked about it last time too, and that's one of the reasons why I'm gonna now go in after that and see if I have the same take as you on that first album, and see if I'm kind of reversing my stance on this once we get this one taken care of and I can finally go listen to that thing.
Yeah, and I'm interested because you've got the whole heard this first. This is what caught me. Then to bounce around, is kind of strange because sometimes I'll hear an album and I love it, and I'll go backwards and I'm like, ooh, the new stuff is what I like. I go backwards and it's still good, but it pales in comparison. But then as time goes on, then you usually find, or in my case, I find one of those albums in the middle that I'm like, ooh, this is it now. This is what I like,
Right.
So it's hard to tell how that'll go. I'll be interested to hear that.
Yeah.
Track 2, FTS. KYS, which I think you pretty much spelled it out what that means on the failed episode.
Yeah. So this one again, I mean, classic kind of hardcore, like balls to the wall pit song. Like, to me, so far out of the first two tracks, this sounds to me like a live band. Like, this is a band that you'd want to go and just like, you want to get in a pit, you want to, you want to let loose, and you want to, just release that aggression in a pit. This is the band to go do it with, like, it's just, to me, this sounds like this is really going to kick ass live. Maybe it didn't translate so well going into an album, but I could totally see this being like a crazy pit song, live.
Yeah, it's and I agree with you there. Again, I felt it was abstract. The riffs were super. Just that first album had so much structure and so much like hardcore progression. And it wasn't that progressive. It was just a little. It was just like hardcore with a little sprinkle of like ghost magic on it, like ghost production. It's just really, really cool. That's a weird band for me too. Like I really love them, but at the same time, like I don't love them. It's a very weird thing. But the first Drain album, there was just this magic pixie dust all over it. That was just pushing a little past hardcore, and then they came right back to hardcore on this one, and it caught me off guard. That like none of these songs I hate, but none of these. The whole album so far, song 1 and 2 is like a B-side from the last one for me. So that's all I've got on that. Like it's very strange, and I hope I get over it actually, because I really do enjoy this band a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like this. Again, this is the first time that I'm hearing this band, so me coming in new, like what I'm hearing, not having anything to compare it to, I kind of feel like, I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage. So, I guess it's an advantage for the band because I'm kind of giving them the thumbs up and really digging what's going on here. But, again, for somebody that's been a fan of it, if they're kind of in the same ballpark as you and they have that, that same kind of feeling from the first album, maybe this doesn't bode as well for the band. But yeah, I can definitely hear their Slayer influences in that tune too. The whole dive bomb thing that they did and everything. Like I was just like, all right, yeah, we're trying to meld some stuff together in this one. But the third track was Devil's Itch, I think. This one, again, very typical hardcore, playing it safe. I don't see anything wrong with that, especially knowing hardcore fans and having toured in a hardcore band, all over the damn planet, and seeing how crowds react to this stuff. Again, total pit song, total, this is going to be a live thing. I almost heard like a little bit of like Metallica influence on this on this track, and kind of had like those old school Metallica riff kind of things happening, and he even threw in like the little death metal like ooh kind of thing at one point, and I was like, oh, all right, that that was kind of cool. So yeah, exactly, he had the kind of thing happening. But yeah, man, again, like playing it safe, hardcore, typical hardcore song, lots of different riffs going on, and it's, to me, it didn't get boring, but it did sound very typical.
Yeah, and that's really been my only issue so far, and same with Devil's Itch. It was, and maybe it's where I've listened to so much hardcore lately, because that has been my genre of choice here lately. A blend of hardcore and thrash. That's kind of been my jam. So maybe this was so straightforward hardcore that I just had a little bit of a hard time listening to it, but yeah, Devil's Itch to me, and it just sounded very B-sidey from the last album to me. Like, didn't make it. Like, I can't help but wonder if some of these songs were written, in that time period. I don't know how many bands do that. I know how many bands, like, do an album and have half an album already in the bank because of the songs that didn't make it on the last one, and maybe they, over time, maybe they tweak them, or maybe they're like, you know what, this has grown on me, let's throw it on the next one. I don't know how much that happens, but I feel like it could have happened here, maybe.
It definitely does happen. Whether it happened on this band or not too sure, or whether what you're hearing is more label influence. I mean, if you want to, I don't know how much of a fan of Incubus you are, but
they have a spot in my heart for my upbringing.
The early like Science, that kind of time from Incubus, and God, we're comparing Drain to Incubus, but like the earlier stuff was really interesting. Once they got the major label under them, they were pushed towards the pop side of thing. Right. I lost interest in it. So maybe there's a little bit of that happening here, where the label was like, all right, look, we're going to maximize, fan appreciation here. We're going to be that typical hardcore album. Let's put out something safe just to kind of continue to build upon what you've already done. And then, you know what, guys, next album, we'll see what you can do. And, maybe you can try something a little different next time. Yeah. That happens a lot more than anybody would care to want to do. I mean, even Taylor Swift, like, look what happened to her from being like a, folk musician to, Madonna basically at this point. So, the label has a lot of, whoever's paying the bills has a lot of pull.
Oh, yeah, always. So. Quick side note there. I have seen Incubus live long time ago, 20 years ago, I'm sure, if not 21, 22 years ago. And I was a fan then, and like you, I kind of got out of it after maybe the first couple albums, Science, and the one with the hits on it. Like, most of that was good, and Drive was just overplayed. And then from there, But great note about that concert, half of that concert was Incubus songs. The other half of that concert was Incubus pulling out a couch and a chair onto the stage, and the whole band sat down, one of which had one of those square drum boxes. The name of it's escaping me.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, that you put in between your legs and you can hit that. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And they did basically half a concert of Tenacious D songs.
Oh, that must have been great.
It was great. It was really good. Because at that time, I was also massively into Tenacious D, because that first album rocked my world. Like, it was
man,
great. But yes, a little side note there. But track 4, Evil Finds Light.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go off my notes a little bit, because this has all grown on me slightly, but my notes are, what the fuck is happening? I'm not even moving my head at this point, because I'm just confused. I was just very confused.
Man,
I was confused.
I had a little bit of trepidation on this track. Something struck me different on this track, and it wasn't a positive thing. To me, this track sounded like it was mixed by somebody else, and me being, studio person, listening to the production and the mixes of everything probably a little more closely than most people, definitely more than most fans would listen to something. This track had a lot of rough edges from a production standpoint. It's just something that caught my ear. It didn't seem like it was, done at the same time or by the same person as the rest of the album. If it was done by the same person, something went wrong here. I don't know what else to say. And it wasn't like night and day. It was enough that like it caught my ear. So.
Exactly. And this is part of where some of my thoughts came on, like, was this a holdover from the last album? Like, was this recorded at a different time? Like, did they? I don't know, because it's like I almost feel like this band got some publicity after they came out after the pandemic, and it's like, this album was a few years ago now, the California Cursed album. And I almost wonder if they felt rushed or felt forced or felt like they had to put something out before they tour again, and they wanted to tour. Because like you said, I think this is a live band. And maybe they're like, we'll do whatever we have to do to get on the road. And if that means pushing out an album that's kind of like a, not a whole new set list of new material, like it makes me wonder.
Yeah, I mean, in doing the, when I was looking up the history of the band and everything and trying to find out, where they came from, what they're doing. Apparently the label wanted them to go into the studio right away. They didn't even want them to tour. And the band was like, no, we gotta, we have to support this album. Like, it didn't get the traction that it needed to. There's people out there that want to hear this stuff. We come out with a new album. We're going to tour on a new album. It's going to put our previous album in the back seat. And I give props to the band for, sticking to their guns with that and saying, hey, look, you got to put us out on the road first with this release. We'll do a cycle on this album, and then we'll go into the studio. So you might be right on that there may have been a little push from the label to, move things ahead because,
Yeah, and maybe they were perfectly fine with it to get on the road, to get, to get out there and then start to build the legacy from there.
Right.
I guess time will tell.
I guess next album will tell. Yeah, exactly.
Next album will tell. Yeah.
The next one was Imposter. I did start to kind of like, give that whole like, all right, this is now more of the same. So I'm kind of crossing the fence onto your side a little bit with this one. Lot of thrash influence on this song. I didn't think it was a bad song. It was just, again, very safe, more of the same. I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it kind of is. It's got like the typical, the speed pushes, the breakdowns. Like it's just, again, it's a pit song. It's more of the same kind of stuff, and that's honestly all the notes that I had on this track. It was just like, okay, this is track number 5. This isn't a single. This isn't going anywhere. This is album filler here.
Yeah, and I had that maybe I felt like it was slightly better, but it was so slight that it was a great definition of the word slight, like just ever so slightly better. And my notes also say black, which I've got,
yes.
which I've got, Warbringer does that better, just to throw that out there. Nobody does the black quite like Warbringer to me, but not sure how much you listen to Warbringer, but they got a good black.
No, I not a huge fan there, but hey man, takes all kinds.
It does, yeah. But yeah, slightly better, but yeah, still kind of more of the same.
I think it's slightly better because of the track that came before it, honestly.
Yeah.
Something was just off on track 4. So track 5, unless it was going to be worse than track 4, it was, it was going to make it, it was going to pick it back up and
right.
Kind of brush some of the dust off from hitting the mat on track 4 there. So, and then, going into track 6, they completely, I don't know what you want to call it.
Eye-opener.
This was just like a, the record scratched on the, at the party, and everybody stopped dancing for a minute to look and see what the hell happened.
It was reminiscent of oh shit, what is that song called on Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys? I think it's called like 5-piece chicken dinner or something like that.
Oh, geez.
And it's
I know what you're talking about.
It's on the cassette tape when it came out, when you flip over to side B, you get a real honky like yeehaw, and it's like it's like, oh shit, did someone record over my Beastie Boys tape? But no, it's simply an intermission. And this song, track 6, is called Intermission. And it's not exactly an intermission because it's not just like a little weird Tool section, I think of Tool. I think of like the circus music on one of the Tool albums in the middle of an album. But like, it's an actual song, and it's got somebody named Shakewell on it. And I've got, this is the best song so far. And I put thanks Shakewell.
Oh, damn.
Because I actually enjoyed this quite a bit because it was such a switch up. I think by this point, I figured out, like, I really like it when bands push the envelope, which is why I'm excited about the Avenged Sevenfold thing, which was why I was a Tool fan, because they pushed the envelope, everything they did. I like when bands grow. And Drain, from what I heard on the first album, turned around and walked back to where they came from, which sometimes works out great. But I heard this song and I was like, okay, maybe the second half of this album is going to be different. But you have any more thoughts on Intermission? It was weird, so I don't know if you have any more notes, but it was a strange one.
This was actually one of the tracks that I had heard before we heard the album, because they put this at the beginning of one of their videos. Like, this was like, they combined 2 songs basically in one of the videos, where this was the first half of the video, and then they went into one of the other tracks for the second half of the video. So I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect it the way that it was put in the album. I figured that what they had done for the video was going to be like that one song kind of thing. I didn't think this was going to be like a standalone track, but I agree with you.
Did they put the whole thing? Did they put the whole song with the other song?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and it just blended together kind of almost seamlessly, like where one just kind of fed into the other. And the video concept on it was kind of cool. Like, they were kind of like watching this on TV, like the whole rap thing. Yeah. And and then it kind of like evolved into their track. But I mean, I'm a big fan of doing stuff like this. As you said, like Tool did it. My old band, we used to do things like this. We would always throw some weird kind of break in the middle of an album just to kind of give everybody a little, ear cleanse. Yeah. And I do think that this album needed that. As do I. You got 5 tracks that are pretty much just straight assault on your ear holes of hardcore music, and now all of a sudden you bring this different genre, different artist, different everything, and it's just like, oh, okay, I got to catch my breath here for a second and get into a different groove for a minute, and then it's it's back to the pits for number 7, which was Weight of the World. I love the riff, the opening riff on this tune on number 7.
As do I. And my notes say that's some better riffage.
Yeah, and I was also happy to hear a guitar solo, which I was missing for the first half of the album. This track kind of was like, all right, now we got something else going on here. It had that whole push-pull thing, but to me, this track had a little more something kind of energy than stuff that we've heard before on this album so far.
Yeah. And I've got fittingly, this is my second favorite track off the album so far because we had that palate cleanser, we had the refresher, and then we went into something a little less straightforward. And, there's even a little, a Tursnstile-ish solo is what I called it. It's a little more of an ambient, some production magic added in on top of the solo, and it kind of had a different feel to it. And I was like, okay, this is turning around a little bit for me, and it was because of that weird intermission song. So from here, I started getting a little more excited with 3 tracks to go, I think.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you this: does this track kind of hark back to that first album as far as the sound goes, or are we more
so than anything before it? Yes.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it belongs on that album necessarily. I'd have to listen to both back to back.
Okay.
But definitely more of what I was expecting before this came out.
Right. Okay. What'd you think of the next one?
Were we on Watch You Burn?
I believe so.
I thought it was a better. I thought the riffs were better in comparison to the first half of the album. But again, the song structure takes a weird twist, and then the riffs get kind of samey again, kind of generic.
Right.
Some bands can switch it up. Again, I talk about this band too much, but it's always like the art on the wall of what kind of music I'm into, and I'm into music that does weird changes, which is why I'm all into this Avenged Sevenfold thing. The fucking changes on that album or the 2 songs that have been released are just wild.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't land like that. I feel like they were trying to go from one brand of hardcore to another and show 2 sides of themselves. But the first side I'm really into, and the second side, which was the second half of the song, was I don't know, a failed hardcore band, something they would do on the second half. And the first half is like, oh God, this band has so much promise. But then they're like, but they're also going to show you where bands failed, sort of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, this track, I kind of had one of my notes here is it feels kind of empty. It felt it had energy, but something was missing out of it. There was some kind of purpose or something that was missing out of this track. It just kind of felt like it was this close to being all right, all they had to do was add 1 or 2 other things in there, and this would have been one of the better tracks on the album, but it fell short for me, and I kind of felt like this one was just that's the only way I could put it. They just kind of fell short on this one.
Yeah, it was like they got tired halfway through the song.
Yeah,
a little uninspired even. So
yep.
Yeah, it's weird. Mm-hmm. It's a weird listen. Track 9. And it's kind of fitting. This is a very weird album the more I think about it, because the promise shown in the first half of Watch You Burn, and then them just basically pulling the rug out from under themselves and you know what, we're going to get a little lazy here. And then we go to track 9, which is Good Things, which is a cover of The Descendants, which is one of my favorite pop punk, or if you just want to call them punk bands of all time. I fucking love The Descendants. Every single thing they've ever done. That's not true. I think the album Enjoy I didn't love, but almost everything the Descendants have ever done, I love that band. To me, they invented pop punk, and I don't understand why Drain did this. It sounds fine. It's a solid cover. They did a good job on it, but like, that's another thing that makes me think like they wanted to push an album out and they didn't want it to be 9 songs, but they only had 9. So they're like, we love the Descendants too. Let's do a cover of Good Things, which doesn't match anything on this album in any way. This Good Things is straight up a, when you cover it, it almost comes out like a Yellow Card song or something. It's just so happy. And it makes no sense on the album. That's an interesting
call on there. Yeah, I you know what? I can hear that now. The singer actually did talk about why they did this track in an interview that I was reading. I'm
glad you researched on this stuff because this is interesting to me.
So he felt that the whole vibe of the song, the lyrics, the feeling of the song, the whole, good kind of thing was very their music scene, their Santa Cruz kind of lifestyle, their basically like what they grew up and what they were fueled on. So this was kind of like a fun way of doing that for them because they felt that song very accurately fit their scene, which is kind of odd considering that you have this very punky kind of thing happening, but you're really a hardcore band. And is there a crossover there? Yes, there is. One of the things that surprised the crap out of me though with this guy's got a good voice.
Oh yeah. Well, when you look at him, when you look at the guy, he looks like the boy next door that has a good pop punk voice. I mean, he'd fit right the fuck in with, Blink 182 or, something like that, an Alkaline Trio. He'd fit right in, looks-wise and probably sound-wise from him singing there. But the reason I love the last album is he's also a pretty damn good hardcore singer.
Yeah. I'm not knocking his hardcore stuff, but, if it don't work out for the band, he's definitely got a future with,
absolutely,
a more
Good
singy
Charlotte
type
or
of
something.
Band.
There you.
Yeah, I actually really liked his voice, and I thought his delivery on the tune. They were very true to the original. They didn't really make this song their own. They didn't turn the song into a hardcore song. Do you call that playing it safe? I don't know. If I were to try to cover one of my favorite songs, would I want to really spin the crap out of it? I don't know. That's hard for me to say. And I have done covers in my bands and stuff like that, but I don't know. Like it is, to me, this is just something that I think they wanted to do. I think you're probably right that it was like, all right, we need one extra thing. Let's have fun with this thing. We can't put it as the last song on the album, obviously, because we can't close a hardcore album out with a pop punk tune. So they pushed it back a slot. But I think they wanted to have a little bit of fun, and maybe this is their way of pushing the envelope with the label and saying, all right, we're still going to be us. We're going to do what we want to do, but we'll play ball. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just a weird one. I get the homage. I get the Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Is a Descendants kind of town. I get maybe the lyrics resonated with them. I get that they grew up on this music, I'm sure, because Descendants, they could go hard. They weren't just all happy.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't work. It just didn't work. Like, as a cover, as a standalone, if they'd have released it, it'd have been like, another solid cover out there in the land of covers. But on an album, like you said, a hardcore album, it just didn't work for me at all. And I love the Descendants, and I love them paying homage to them, whatever. That's all fine and good, but this is like the nail in the final coffin of my opinion that they threw this whole album together.
Yeah. And again, I think you might be onto something with that. especially considering how they did end the album and that last track.
Yeah.
I was a little off-put by the ending of it because I sat there and listened to that that last track waiting for something to happen at the end, and it never came. And sorry for the spoiler alert on this one, but where'd you go? Like, it's like, they're in the middle of a song and they just like walked off. Like,
right.
What happened? Where's the end of this song?
It was strange, man. It was really, really strange. And
there's a lot of cowbell in this song.
A lot of cowbell. A lot of Christopher Walken love in this song. And again, and this one, it's also the longest track on the album. And it never really deviates from the path. And it gave me, for some reason, I felt like it was a much longer song than it was. And my notes say it's just one long song with no pitch changes, no tempo changes, no, like they completely, again, go completely off the beaten path of what they were doing on this, which was trying to mix their sound up within the same song. And on this one, they're like, nah, straight line all the way across is what this song is. And I compared it to a very short version of The Decline by NoFX, but not nearly as good. Which The Decline was like a 20-minute one-song album, and it was fucking great. And this was, even though it's only a 3-minute song, it just felt so much longer. And I thought, like, did I just listen to like a 10-minuter right there? And I looked, I was like, no, it was 3 minutes, 22 seconds. It was just boring as fuck.
Yeah, I kind of got that same thing going in on this one. And like, to me, this song should have been like a minute and change. And they just, I think they were trying to reach that, that album limit of like, however many minutes the album needed to be. It's like, all right, we'll slow the ending down and just let it kind of drag out until we reach that time limit.
And they wrung it out too, didn't they? Did they ring the last note out? Did it just keep?
It's a thing called Verify, where it almost sounds like a record player just slowing down, and it just keeps, and it just it went on fucking forever. Just like,
and that's a very old practice that has fallen out of favor, and it's not coming back.
Right. And and that's the whole thing. Like, if they had done that, and that that thing just kept going, and then they came in with something and just like, punished you like at the very end of it, I would have been like, all right, there's the finish, there's the thing. But it never came. It was it just it slowed its way into oblivion, and it was over. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's got to be another track. Like, there's got to be something else coming here. What what
there
gives?
Wasn't. And you nailed that, because one of my favorite things ever on an album is when it creeps off like that and goes completely silent, and then it punches you right in the face.
Exactly.
And they're like, no encore. We're walking off for real.
Bye.
All right. Okie dokie.
Yeah. So I mean, that to me was a big letdown. Like, if they were gonna, if that was the issue, maybe they should have gone back and looked at some of the other tracks that they had, and maybe put a little bit more into one of the other tracks that was a little more interesting, and keep that one short, whatever. Don't make it the last song on the album, something.
Yeah.
But to me, this was a cop out on the end of this. Maybe this is a middle finger to the label that was saying that you have to do some of this stuff. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, that's a big deal. I want to say California Cursed was on, maybe it wasn't on Epitaph, but maybe it was.
I don't know if Epitaph put it out. They were signed after that album was released to Epitaph.
Yeah.
But whether or not
Revelation Records is what that album was on.
Okay.
So yeah, Epitaph snagged them after they heard that, probably, and good snag, because I'm telling you, I hope you feel the same way I do, which it's a 10-track song as well. So maybe every album's going to be 10 tracks. Maybe that's going to be a thing to expect from them. But
okay.
The last album kicked ass. Like, I listened to it more
now
times
I have to
than
go
I can count.
Now I have to go and listen to it now that we kind of cut through these, and now I can see,
Kicked
your
ass.
perspective. Yeah,
Absolutely
I got to check out and
ass.
see where that came from, and maybe glean a little insight into what happened on this album from your perspective. Because, again, to me, I think the band is tight. I think the band has a lot of promise. I really think that this band would kick ass live. Like, I could totally picture what crowds would be doing, during a set of theirs.
Yeah.
But in the studio, wasn't terrible, wasn't great. It kind of fell in the middle here, You have your
That's actually
your
my
BB-SAR
take.
for your
it
microphones.
Just started out really bad.
Yeah. I think to me this album would probably be like a 6 somewhere in there. If we had to do a rating kind of thing like what you do with the mics there, but
which we can. We can. I'll call it a 5. I'll call it a 5 out of 10. And I don't think we're that far off from each other because, it wasn't anything overly impressive. But at the same time, if this is your first exposure to them, you directly look up at the promise and you're like, this band has a lot of promise.
Yes.
And my perspective is I heard the promise so much more on the prior release, and now I'll be interested to see if you do too. And this band, I've read it a million times. This band is like in the pecking order of this hardcore revival that's starting to veer into a new land. Like it's Tursnstile, which is blowing up something crazy right now. Not quite yet, but they're on their way. A lot of talk about that band, and I think for good reason. They love that band. I absolutely love the band.
I went through that live set that you sent me from beginning to end. I enjoyed that. That was
just good. Yeah, I went and saw them in concert after I heard that album because I was like, and it was
everything that was.
I had a fucking blast. I had an absolute blast. The crowd that was there was one of those like passionate, intimate.
That's awesome.
Loving. I met so many people there that I haven't talked to since because we didn't exchange info, but it was like being in a room full of friends. And at a intermission part, like I think they took maybe I can't remember. I'm going to go ahead and assume it was before they came out. The song that played right before they came out, and bands usually pick the music that plays before they come out.
Right.
Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody came on before they came out. And that whole fucking building was singing that song together, note for note, and it was special.
Wow.
Like, it was special. Not because I love that song, nothing like that, but that's a classic, and it's like a feel-good thing, and Tursnstile is a feel-good band, even though they're hardcore. They're not really that hardcore. But it was just one of those things where, like, okay, this crowd is something different. And that concert was just knocked my damn socks off. And Drain is supposed to be that number 2 next big thing behind Tursnstile. And I still have that hope. But I think the reason I was kind of critical on this album is because that hope got dashed at least a little bit for now. Mm-hmm. They took a hit to me. And I think they opened the door for some other band like Incendiary, which is coming out with an album soon. Which is a hardcore band that has a little bit of Rage Against the Machine to them.
Oh, okay.
They opened the door for a band like that to sneak in if this Incendiary album that comes out next week, I think, pushes the envelope a little more than some of their other ones. So I think it was a risky release to me because they had already built a cult following and a little bit of cult status from the Pandemic album that was called California Curse that was just perfectly timed and named before the pandemic, and I can't wait for you to hear it. And
risky for the band or risky for the label?
Just risky. Not so much for the label, because I don't think Epitaph is looking to like. I'm sure all record labels want success, of course, but I don't think Epitaph is overly concerned with like finding the next Nirvana. You know what I mean?
No, definitely not. But there's from a label perspective, you want to put something out that's safe enough that you're going to get a return on your investment. Do you want to put something out that is going to be generally accepted You don't want to put something out that is so off the wall you're gonna, alienate existing fans, or, wind up causing some kind of rift in, the genre that the label tends to, specialize in, because that's kind of what we see, especially with like hardcore, metal, punk. Like, the label tends to have the same kind of stuff, which I get it. I understand. You can't be like Capitol Records and have Megadeth and Frank Sinatra. It's
right.
It doesn't always work. So and it's good for the fans also, because okay, this label is my type of music. So if they put something out, I'm gonna expect, okay, Epitaph, I like hardcore stuff. I'm gonna guess that this is gonna be a hardcore album if I've never even heard anything from it. This label puts out hardcore. Here we are. So yeah, I definitely think that this album was a play it safe move. I don't know about risky, but I would call it more of a play it safe kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I mean risky just because they had already built up some expectations, and I don't know if maybe the label didn't quite know that, and if the label was like, let's start off basic and go back to your roots and build from there on Epitaph. Let's not let people know about California Cursed and something that you've already pulled off that's pretty damn special. Right. Not special, but fuck, man. Me and my buddy Lawrence, like, the first time we heard the opening track to that album, which is Feeling the Pressure, I think, Feel the Pressure. Like, we were both like, fuck, okay, this band, there's only been a handful of bands. Spirit World is one of them, which the song Heretic Butcher from Spirit World came on after this album finished the first time I listened to it, and I was like, oh
crap.
That also helped me to be a little negative, because Spirit World's on another level already. And but there's been a handful of bands that we've heard over the last year, because we do this exploration through Messenger. We're like, check this out, check this out, check this out, check this out. And it was like Spirit World, a band called Nicolas Cage Fighter that's hard as fuck, and Drain, and Tursnstile, which happened way before all three of those. But it was like, this band's going places. So for this album to hit after I'm like, this band's going places, is like, oh no, full stop. Full stop. Like, the promise is still there, but it just...
This band pulled off to the side of the road and got some McDonald's on the way to their destination.
and hopped out of their van and played a song, kind of took it back 5 years or so. Yeah. And I think my expectations were just too high. But this album's definitely not going to just kill those expectations off. I just have to believe that Epitaph is like, the promise is there, but we're not going to show everybody yet. We're gonna promote this album and get people thinking that you're pretty good, and then maybe on the next album or the third album, we're gonna let you grow and expand and show what you can do, just like Tursnstile. Because Tursnstile started out purely hardcore. The lead singer from them is the drummer from Trapped Under Ice. So,
oh shit, okay,
yeah, the singer of Tursnstile, drummer for Trapped Under Ice, and they started out straight hardcore, kind of like this Drain album. And but I think it was better, and they grew. So I'm kind of thinking maybe Epitaph is gonna treat this like Drain never made California Cursed. And
I mean, honestly, it does sound like that, because when they signed him, they wanted him to go into the studio right away. They didn't want the band to go out on that album.
They had to be trying to suppress that album since it wasn't an Epitaph album. Maybe.
Yep.
Pure, projection.
I mean, and honestly, like, if I was in that situation, I probably would have tried to do the same thing. But good on the band for sticking to their guns, and having them get put out on, on that album for a little while. I mean, they got to play with Terror. I can imagine that those shows were probably pretty good.
Badass. So I imagine so.
It had to have helped their whole fan base and everything going out with them, and then now
if Terror and Drained was in my area tomorrow, I'd be trying to get tickets.
There you go.
Yeah. But
yeah, man.
As soon as you listen to that album,
I will. I'll probably wind up. I'll listen to it tomorrow. I got a studio session at 9:30 in the morning tomorrow, and then after
time
that,
for another nap.
I'm good. Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna need another nap. But yeah, listen to that. As soon as you listen to Feeling Pressure, I would like a text because it just hits immediately. The riff is like just fucking infectious. I'm like, ooh yeah, this is good shit. So I'll be eager to hear that. But that's what we got on Drain, Living Proof. Maybe the band started over. Maybe they just want to go back to their roots on their first major label debut, which you could call Epitaph major, right? That's a major label.
It's up there.
Semi-major. Yeah. I mean, especially for hardcore and punk fans. Epitaph is probably the label for 90s punk kids like myself.
Right.
That and Fat Records. You know, that's the first two that come to mind when I think about my upbringing on punk and hardcore. And so, semi-major. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're onto something, maybe we're not. But I imagine we'll come back to you with Foo Fighters and Avenged Sevenfold episodes somewhat soon.
We're going to have a good time on that because,
I'm basically going to be climaxing the whole time we talk about Avenged Sevenfold. I've already read some reviews, and I'm like, oh fuck, the whole album's like these two songs. This is going to be like Tool's Ladder Alice to me. It's not going to come off my player for like 6 months to a year. It's going to be that good.
You're going to wear out the digital file.
Yes, I'll have myself hyped up like I did on this, and then I'll be like, it wasn't as good as I thought. I don't know.
Yeah. Never can tell. Well,
that's the way it goes. But we'll see you guys next time. If you got feedback, if you think we're crazy for not loving this album, or you think we're on to something, let us know in the comments. All 7 of you that watch on YouTube. I wish podcast episodes had more comment possibilities because this podcast does pretty well on podcast downloads. But on YouTube, nope. Not so good.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I noticed that, like, if I go to the YouTube version of it, because sometimes you want to just see what's going on.
Yes.
There's like 30 downloads, and meanwhile, you look at their the podcast numbers, they're like millions of downloads. It's like, wait, what?
Yep.
What happened
It just depends on what you prioritize. Like, if you took your MEI Studios stuff and you just exported the audio as a podcast, it probably wouldn't do that great because I have a microphone podcast where I do 3-4 minute episodes.
Okay.
And it doesn't do shit, but Obscure Mics does okay. It does okay. Right. So yeah, it just depends on how you prioritize it, I guess. But yeah, YouTube not good for this podcast, but that's okay. Well, I don't care.
Hey,
we don't give a fuck.
Happens.
Yeah, fine.
All right,
it's fine. I'll see you next time. We'll take another nap, asshole. I'll probably be awake for 2 or 3 hours because I'm always pumped after I record something and I can't go to sleep.
Nice.
Good luck with your session tomorrow, and hope to hear from you on more Drain. But we'll see you next time. I don't know what'll come first, Avenged Sevenfold or Foo Fighters or God knows what. It might be Adele. Who knows? I don't know. But we'll see you next time. Adele.